Hey everyone, welcome. Yes, welcome to my channel. So Marissa Price, of course, I'll introduce myself. I always forget to do that. But I am a social worker, healer, educator, business educator, which is why I have the wonderful Liz Walker here as my guest today, who is a business coach, an anti-capitalist business coach, which I'm very interested in hearing more about.
Yes.
But yeah, I will pass it to you actually to introduce yourself, your channel, and the work you do.
You. Yeah, awesome. So, as Marissa just said, I am Liz Walker. I am a former good student turned anti-capitalist entrepreneur, business coach, but client-centered business coach. There's a difference because it's wild out here in these streets. And I
Mm.
basically help women of color to get more visible online and to create more social media content so that they can grow their side hustles, because oftentimes we're doing this with a full-time job on the side. So that's what I
Yes.
do for the world. One of
Yeah.
the
That is so true. Because I'm actually working with current and aspiring Black women, digital entrepreneurs, with the online community that I created. And yeah, a lot of us, it has to be our side hustle right before we like transition into full time. So that's a whole
yes,
other
yes,
stressor. So
right,
yes,
right.
absolutely. Yeah, but I did want to ask you just about some of the unique challenges that
Hmm.
Black women may face as entrepreneurs when
Yeah,
starting, running their own businesses, and any, that you may have experienced those unique challenges.
yeah. So I've been in business now for 3 years. And what's really unique about the issues that women of color, especially Black women, face when they're growing their business is the fact that there is just so many, there aren't enough of resources made by people who like look like us, who share our experience, who are able to really speak to like the realness of it. And when people do actually find success in the business world, oftentimes
Mhm.
it's a case of like right place, right time, right privilege that gets them
Mm, that part.
there. And
Hmm.
then they package up this lifestyle that they're trying to sell to you. They're trying to sell you this dream of what entrepreneurship like could be, or what your business could mean to you and your family and your community, all the while not really sharing like the truth of the matter, like what actually got them there, and how you may not have access to that. Like you may not have access to all this capital from your family so that you're
Yes.
able to go out and waste hundreds of thousands of dollars on ads just to con someone out of their money. Like, or you may not be connected to
Yes.
these large networks. Because even sometimes
True.
with women, even with like women of color, there are still some groups where they have large networks, like very much like deeply rooted, interconnected communities and families. And unfortunately for some Black women, myself included, you ain't got that. I ain't have that. And so
Hmm.
you truly are like starting from scratch.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Hmm.
such a good point.
Yeah.
And something you said about like lack of access to capital. I know that very well. That's the issue that I worked on at the toxic job that I left.
Hmm.
Actually, is trying to get equitable access to capital to Black business owners, and it's so difficult, right? Because you're up against these white institutions. I'm just gonna be real,
Hmm.
trying to get things moving, trying to change things, and it's like you're running into walls all the time. So that is so real. That is so real, and thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And businesses like that, where they're run mainly by like white men, they get that
Yes.
extra benefit of the doubt. Like they get the opportunity to fail to then prove themselves. We don't
Mhm.
get that benefit of the doubt. And so, one of
Yes.
the biggest things that I've had to learn in my journey is learning how to give myself the benefit of the doubt. And it's really hard for Black women because we're just so used to like if we get something wrong, that could mean death. Like if we get
Mm.
wrong, that could mean we're not eating. So it's hard to get comfortable with the idea of allowing yourself to fail at something, to
Right.
be new at something. So
Hmm.
it's a totally different world out here for us.
That's true. That's so true. Yeah, and a lot of us, like you said, don't have a safety net. So we're entering entrepreneurship with all of this pressure added on, like it has to be perfect, it has to be right. because so much is weighing on that, right? We don't have
Mhm.
like you said, thousands of dollars, like $100,000 to fall back on if this idea doesn't work. So that's so real. That's so real. Thank you. But yeah, I guess some of the rewarding aspects of entrepreneurship, I do want to touch on that too.
Yes.
If you have anything to share, like stark contrast, but
I know, right?
yeah. But if you have anything to share, like about your experience and what has been rewarding as you've undertaken this journey of
Oh,
entrepreneurship.
yeah. So, I mean,
Mhm.
besides like, because there can be a lot of like, there can be some negative aspects and a lot of, I have
Yeah.
my share of thoughts about the online business space, the coaching industry. Like, I have my
Mm.
share. I have an opinion on that. But
Okay. Yeah.
like that being had said, I would not trade this experience for the world. I feel like my entrepreneurship journey really helped me to develop such deep self-trust. And
Ooh.
especially as someone who identified as like the good student, like the good church girl, like it was like this was my first experience really leaning into my own authority versus the
Ooh.
authority of someone else. And
Mm.
I was able to really take a chance on me and my ideas and my dreams. And when I was able to start bringing things to life, it was just collecting evidence along the way of, oh, wait, like I can do everything these folks can do, these white men can do at my job. And in fact, I do it better. I do
Right.
it way better because I
Mm-hmm.
know what systems they're working in and why what they're trying to do isn't working. So let me go on over here and build my own shit. Like it's been
I
such
love that.
yeah, it's an incredibly empowering journey. And
Mm.
just the development you get along the way, like the money's
Yeah.
nice, but the development you get along the way, that is just absolutely priceless. It's absolutely
Mm.
priceless. Yeah.
That's such a great point. Yeah, the self trust. Because that's something that I have found just being like a new entrepreneur in the past few months, right? The self trust, like, no, I am the authority on what I'm saying. I have
Mhm.
all these skills that I've gained over the course of my career, and I can apply them to, start my business, grow my business. So that self empowerment aspect is huge, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's so huge. And it stays with you too. So even if
Hmm.
you're still working like a 9 to 5 job while you're building your business, like the empowerment that you feel and that authority, it carries with you to every other aspect of your life where you recognize, like, wait a minute, no, I actually know what the hell I'm talking about. Like
Yeah.
like look what I can create. Do you know who I am?
Mhm.
It's a totally new way to just view just like life.
Hmm.
It's definitely it's eye-opening. It's phenomenal. I would not trade it for the world. I wouldn't.
I love that. I love that. Thank you. So yeah, I want to talk more about the anti-capitalist term,
Oh, yes.
anti-capitalist business coach, because
Yes.
that term is so interesting to me. I'm like, I have to know more. So
Yes.
if you'd like to share like the meaning behind that and how that looks in your
Yeah.
business.
Yeah. So capitalism at this stage in the game, it's like we know what there are some people who view capitalism as something that's a bit more, not so negative and all this possibility and all the yada, yada, yada. No, the capitalism that we're experiencing now, this late stage capitalism, this valuing of
Ooh.
profit over people is
Mhm.
literally tearing this world apart and has
Yes.
been tearing this world apart for centuries,
Hmm.
for centuries now.
Yes.
And as an anti-capitalist business coach, like my focus is always on people. It's on the person. So with the work that I do, I'm not thinking, oh, how can I increase my profits and maximize them? I'm thinking, how can I get the best results for my clients? And in the future, when I start building a team, it'll be like, how can I create an amazing work experience for my team and do my best to try and first acknowledge and be aware of any inherent power dynamics, but also do my best to try and figure out a way to make sure that their voices are still being heard, that they're still feeling seen. It's really just being aware of how this pursuit of money at all costs really just infuses into our decision making, and it just seems so normal because of capitalism, but in actuality is killing us.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Yeah.
really is like, that's why I really like centering myself as like an anti-capitalist business coach. And we're still all unlearning, right? Because capitalism, just like white supremacy, is literally the air
Mm-hmm.
we breathe, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there are many different aspects of us and ways that we go about the world and go about our business where capitalism is at the center of it, where like money at all costs is at the center. So we're always on this journey. I'm always on this journey still of unlearning that, like becoming more aware of how, the decisions that I'm making, like, is this me? Is this a decision that I want to do? Or is this an idea that capitalism gave me? Like, is this a choice that I'm making? Or is it because some business coach who wants to promote laptop lifestyle is forcing it down my throat? And
Yeah.
but funny thing is that when you actually focus on the people, that's when the
Mm-hmm.
money actually comes. Like you focus, if you
Mm-hmm.
focus on the profits, you miss the point. Like when you focus on your clients, when you focus on like your employees, like that's why most 9 to 5s are a hell to work for, because it's just
Yeah.
money, money, money. Forget your
Yes.
humanity. It's all about everyone being a robot in the capitalist machine. You're just a cog in the wheel of a machine meant to drive profits. That's
Mm-hmm.
why it's so toxic for most of
Yes.
us.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just like really my goal is really to continue to grow my business in a way where I'm just centering the people. That's what it's all
Mm.
about. It's about the people.
I love that. I love that. And that's like a whole new way to look at business. Like
Mm,
especially coming from the corporate world where yeah, everything was like, how much money is this making? What's our return on this? Kind of
mhm.
centering people is like revolutionary. And I love that. I
Right,
really
right.
do. And you said something else about building a team. I did want to ask you, like, as a new entrepreneur, all of the tasks and stuff that I'm doing, I'm like, this is a lot some days. When
Mhm.
is that time that you're like, okay, now it's time to hire, a team member to assist me?
Mhm.
Like, do you have any guidance for newbies out here
Yeah.
on
And
that?
it
Mhm.
is a lot because if you think
Yeah.
about it, as a solopreneur, you're doing the job of like 10 different departments, right? Like
Yes.
in an actual, like in the corporate world, there are different departments filled with people doing every single thing that you're doing. It's
True.
like you're the graphic designer, you're the content writer, you're the creative
Hmm.
director, you're the salesperson, and you're the marketer, and you do operations, and you do the finance. It's like you do HR for yourself because you need to
Yes.
focus on your self-care. Like you do all of
True.
it. So
Yes.
it is a lot. And the decision to bring on a team member, it depends. It depends on the person because on the one
Hmm.
hand, you want to make sure that you are actually bringing in enough money into your business to be able to pay you and pay that person and not be stressing out
Right.
about it, right? Because, another aspect of capitalism, we still have to
Hmm.
be cognizant of money. We still got to be cognizant of our resources, and there's nothing wrong with
Right.
that. It just becomes an issue when you start prioritizing that over your well-being or the well-being of others. So
Yes.
you want to make sure that it's financially feasible for you, and then
Hmm.
two, you want to get to a point where you know already what it is that you want this person to do and you're easily able to communicate that to them. So a situation that some folks tend to find themselves in is that, for instance, they might find that they don't like doing their marketing, they don't like showing up on social media, for instance, and so they're like,
Right.
oh, I don't like social media. I'm sick of this. I'm going to go hire me a VA to go do social media for me, or to
Oh,
hire
yeah.
like a social media manager to go do social media for you. But that person's going to ask you, okay, well, what do you want to do? Like, what's the vision? What am I posting? What's the messaging? What are we doing?
Hmm.
You don't know because you just didn't even want to deal with it. So
Right.
it's like you do not want to just give someone something just because you just don't want to deal with it. Like you want to get to the
Um,
point where it's
yeah.
like you know how to do it. You know how to do it. I won't say like you don't have to be an expert at it because you can't be an expert at every single aspect of your business. But you
Right.
at least know it enough where you know what it is that you're looking for and you're able to communicate it to someone without it feeling like an extra thing on your to-do list. Because that's then when it becomes like, if you can't easily communicate to someone what you want, it becomes a chore. And you're just like, oh, well, I was already
Yeah.
doing all this work and now I have to do this extra work and teaching this person how to do X, Y, and Z. No. Okay. So you want to make sure that it's that you know exactly what you want already, so you can just give it to them, get it off your plate.
Mm. Mm. That's great advice. Yeah. And as a virtual assistant, I find that often, like with new entrepreneurs, like you don't even know what you need help with sometimes because it all
Yeah.
just feels overwhelming. So, yeah, being able to identify those tasks so that someone can easily step in and help you. That's very
Right.
helpful advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there are a lot of entrepreneurs
Mhm.
who they ask for help a little bit too soon. And it's definitely
Mhm.
important to ask for help. Like, it's good to ask for help, but you just want to know what type of help you actually need. Like, if you're struggling to bring in new clients, for instance, and you're still
Right.
not quite sure if what it is that you're saying in your marketing is actually working or getting people to work with you, then
Mhm.
that's something that you're probably going to want to work with, either like a business consultant or a business coach, something along those lines, so that you know for yourself what's working. And then if you bring on a team member, you can easily
Right.
give that to them, versus you're depending on them to try and figure it out for you. Then you get mad at them because they're not figuring it out,
Mm.
just creating
Yeah.
this stressful dynamic. You want to avoid that.
Ooh.
That's chaos from the
Mhm.
9 to 5. We don't want to bring that into our business. We want to leave that at the 9 to 5.
Yes.
CEOs and those mindset issues, that they can stay at that 9 to 5.
Agreed. Agreed. That is such helpful advice. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Thank you.
Helpful. Yes, yes.
Um, but yeah, you did mention something about like wellness and self care. So I wanted to ask
Mm,
you about that. Since entrepreneurship can be very demanding on your time and energy, are there any practices that you do personally to ensure that you're putting yourself first?
yeah. So I start my day just like focused on me. Like, even with, I still have a
Mm.
9 to 5. Even with that, I still start my day just focused on filling my cup. So that means that in the morning, I'm not touching social media. I'm not checking
Mm.
my business email. None of that. In the morning, I am making sure that I'm hydrated. I'm drinking my water, right? I'm making sure that, I'm getting food in my system and having my breakfast. Maybe I'll read a book. Maybe I'll work out. It's like
Mm.
taking that first, for me personally, the morning just works. Just having a moment where I'm focused on just like me and listening to what my body needs, and
Right.
then going from there. Like, once I feel like my body has what it needs, and then I move into the next thing of, okay, like, what do I want to do that's fun today for my business? And then, just working through the orders of the priority list. But yeah, just starting the day really with me. And then another thing that's
Mm.
just huge for me throughout
Yeah.
my entire business journey is a self-coaching practice. So
Mm.
if you've never experienced coaching, I highly recommend it. You can work with a coach, but you can also self-coach yourself as well. It's a little bit harder to do if you haven't actually experienced coaching, to kind of get the gist of what you're trying to do. But essentially, an easy way to start is like a brain dump, like a thought dump,
Mm.
journaling, just
Mhm.
getting out all of the thoughts that are in your head, anything that's just floating around. Especially for us, like former good students, like high
Yes.
achievers,
Me.
things like that. The mind, like, the thoughts are just running wild. They're running wild. And
Yes.
so we're constantly overthinking everything. So it's helpful
Mhm.
to just get it all out on the page, just to see what's going on in there. And if there's anything in there that's, making you feel not so good, it's good to at least acknowledge it and be aware of it, because then you can start to feel your feelings. You can start to just process it, and
Right.
then start to kind of get to the other side of it. But if you don't actually become aware of it, if you just kind of keeps trying to stuff it down, then
Mhm.
it's just gonna fester until it
Mm.
explodes in some way or
Yes.
another. And this
Mhm.
is, I think, a really important practice too, especially for Black women, because we're told day in and day out that like our emotions are too much, right? It's like you don't want to be
Hmm.
a Black woman.
Yes.
Or if you know, feel like you can't be vulnerable, you can't cry, you can't like express your feelings. Like in the workplace, you have to be just like smiling all day like a like a weird robot. Like, you know, you don't often have,
Yes.
you don't have many places where you can truly just express how you feel. And so you
Mm,
want to get to a place where you can express how you feel to yourself at least.
right. Mm,
Yeah.
that's powerful. That's
Hmm.
powerful. And yeah, that's something I had a interview excuse me, an interview with Coach Yolanda, who is my spiritual life coach, a few days ago actually, and she told me that too. Morning times are like the times to center yourself because that's something I struggle with. So yeah, that's great advice.
It's
Thank you.
gold. It's gold.
Yeah, yeah. But I did want to ask you about like feelings of self doubt because I know that's an issue for, especially as Black women entrepreneurs. A lot of times, having those issues of self doubt, feeling like you can't even start your business, you don't even have the qualifications to do that. Do you have any advice on navigating those feelings as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, yeah. So I'd say the simplest way to go about it is to one, like acknowledge that they're there and
Mm,
that they're normal. It's normal to feel fear about something you've never done before.
right.
And entrepreneurship is this vast thing with all these moving parts, a ton of different puzzle pieces that you don't even know exist yet, depending on where you're at in your journey. So you're going to have lots
Right.
of failure. There's going to be lots of twists and turns. I like to think of it as like a maze where you're running through this maze and then you're just going to hit dead ends, and then you're just going to have to backtrack and just try something else until you eventually get to the other side. You just don't know when that's going to be. So it's like acknowledge that it's okay to feel that imposter syndrome. I feel like some of the rhetoric now is, oh, you don't have imposter syndrome, that's made up. And I don't actually
Yes.
believe that. I believe that it's 100% normal to have imposter syndrome about something new, because that's your brain. Your brain
Right.
is fearful of something new, and fear isn't a bad thing. Like fear keeps us alive. It's why we don't go out and play in traffic, right? Like
Right.
it's just giving you a heads up. Oh, this is new. Like we're just on alert about this. And
Right.
then what we need to do for our nervous system, though, is to baby step into it. Like if you're terrified of going live on YouTube, for instance, then
Right.
maybe the first time that you do like create content for your business probably shouldn't be going live on YouTube. Maybe you should be maybe going live with like a close friends group, or like a
Right.
private
Right.
a private group, or something along those lines. Like you're allowed to baby step yourself into these things.
Right.
And especially for like women of color, for Black women, we have these traumas that come from the world basically like silencing us and telling us all the different ways that we're showing up wrong and how we have to fit in and fit into the
Yes.
box. So
Hmm.
it's scary as hell to feel like you're being seen by potentially thousands of people, because you don't know what they're going to think
Yes.
about you. You don't know what they're going to say.
Hmm.
Like we've spent decades of our life trying to fit into a box and not draw too much attention to
Yes.
ourselves. So start small, collect your evidence. It's like maybe you go live, maybe you talk on a recorded call with some friends, and there you didn't die, and they had good
Yeah.
feedback, and so then you take that next baby step, and then maybe you're going on stories on Instagram or something because they disappear, and that's fine. You live to tell the tale, and then you take the next step and the next step until you
Yeah.
get to where it is you want to go. Like we don't
Mm.
have to do these like big, huge quantum leaps or whatever.
Right.
It's you can ease yourself in and collect your evidence along the way, because sometimes
Yeah.
sometimes it's like we see people who have, they have all this confidence, right, about the things that they're doing, the things that they're saying. But
Yes.
sometimes they're just saying blatantly wrong things. And it's just like, you
That's
should
true.
not be as
That's
confident
true.
as you are. It's like, it's like It's like on some level, it's like, yeah, I wish I had the confidence of like some white man, but at the same time,
Mhm.
do I want to be out here blatantly saying
Right.
wrong and terrible things
Because
and
he
not
don't know what he's talking about.
like, no, I don't. So let me ease
Yeah.
into the sweet spot where I want to be.
Right. Yes. That is great advice. Great advice. Thank you. And with like going right along with like social media, I did have a question because a lot of us, like you said, fear being seen
Mm.
because we have all these traumas from everyone telling us we're doing too much, we're taking up too much space. So, how can we really lean into our authenticity on social media to attract our people, to attract our customer base?
Mm. Yeah, again, it's the baby stepping into it. Like
Right, right,
the and also I would recommend doing some, and you can do this either like through journaling, work with a coach or whatever,
right.
to investigate where exactly some of the fear might be coming from in terms of sharing more of your authentic self. Like for me personally, like even though I'm a black woman, on
Hmm.
some level, when I was first starting out, I did have a fear of showing up as my authentic self because when I was growing up, I was not necessarily, I wouldn't say bullied per se, but like I was
Hmm.
kind of singled out sometime as like the weird black
Yes.
girl, like the awkward
Yeah.
black girl, right? It's like I read
Hmm.
too much, or my jeans were a bit too baggy, or I watched too much anime. Like, so
Yes.
it's like you have these experiences and then you're thinking, oh, well, how the heck is like everyone else going to accept me if, in some cases my own people weren't even trying to accept me. So it's important to kind of bring that to the light and really think about that, and really just like kind of like ask yourself like, okay, that might have happened in the past, but like what if that doesn't mean that there aren't people who would feel connected to me and my story and how I show up? Because the internet's a big place. The internet's a huge place. And that means there are people technically who will look at you and say something crazy in the comments. But that also means there are plenty of people who are looking for people just like you because there's no one around them in their actual neighborhood that even remotely comes close to sharing their experience. Like some of the closest relationships I have are from people that I met online. Like I live in New England, and so where I'm at, there aren't that many black people around me. So I was just like, so it was nice to go online and say, oh, there's a plethora of black women with a plethora of experiences that I can get to know, and that like me, and I like them, and it's cool. So yeah, it's definitely still a baby step though. Like find your
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, find your people.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the internet is a big place, and your
Mm-hmm.
people are out there
Yeah.
waiting for you. And I agree. Having like an online presence and being able to connect with communities online has been like life changing for me too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, thank you, thank you, and thank y'all so much for the comments too. I'm loving reading them. I guess yeah, we can kind of pivot to collaboration. It's very powerful, right? When Black women collaborate, we can move mountains. But what do you see as the benefits of collaboration for Black women entrepreneurs, kind of starting out, knowledge sharing, sharing stories, just supporting each other? In
Yeah.
your opinion, the benefits of that?
Yeah, I think collaboration is huge.
Yeah.
So so first, I think it's huge because one of the terrible things about capitalism is this focus on building empires.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
build your empire. I can't. It really prioritizes like one person or a few people being at the
Yes,
top, hoarding all this power, and being able to force everyone else to do what it is that they want to do. Like
absolutely.
again, that's giving toxic 9 to 5. That's giving problematic as hell. But
Yes.
with collaboration, like that peer to peer, creating these networks, it's a great way to build these networks where people can get exposed to like different ways of thinking, different people who are offering maybe services that they actually need. like Black women are not a monolith. So there are going
No.
to be certain people that, for instance, you can reach Marissa that I can't. So building like these networks of people is, I think it's pivotal to like help people. So it's like, we're at the end of the day, we're doing this for impact, to help our clients, to do this fulfilling work. So you definitely have the greater potential to reach more people when it's these networks of people coming together and branching out, and like you're touching a few people who are then touching a few people who are then touching a few people, versus building this empire that's supposed to help everybody when it fails to help most of the people stuck in the thing. So yeah, so I think collaboration is really huge. Like, we all benefit from helping each other. This idea of like competition keeps us all stuck. That crabs in a barrel syndrome. We need to be helping each other.
Agreed. Yes. And it is powerful, right? Because like you said, your message may reach a certain target audience and my message may reach a different target audience, but together, like, the reach of that is so much bigger. So just being able to collaborate with people with similar interests, similar like target audiences, to collaborate and reach more people is very powerful.
Yeah.
So agreed. But yeah, I did want to, as we're wrapping up, first I wanted to see if you wanted to share anything else, but then also how people can continue to follow your journey online and connect with you.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, if I could just say, anything else, especially to like the folks who are newer to the entrepreneurship journey, like the journey's going to be long. It's going to be long. There aren't any, 6 figures to 6 months. Like, that stuff is made up. It's selling a dream that does not exist. But, you still have the ability to be able to create like a business that may not look exactly how you thought it would look when you first started, but like what you end up with will be something even better than you had originally expected. So like, stay open. It's going to be a long road, but a long road of lessons that literally, once you learn them, you'll be like, I don't know how I live my life without even knowing this. Like, I will not go back. Yeah. It's definitely, and I spoke to a client about this a while back, how I do believe it's harder for Black women to grow successful businesses. However, I think that it's harder more so up front. It's like, you have to like the lessons of entrepreneurship, you have to learn them earlier than, say, some blonde-haired white woman who goes viral and then all her dreams come true, right? like But the thing is that blonde white woman still has to learn these hard lessons. It's just a bit of a delay as to when she has to learn them. And then the consequences of her not learning them can be more dire, right? So we learn it early, and it's hard, but once we learn them, it makes the journey so much easier and so much simpler, and you do it with much more self-trust, and you really need to take the time to build the thing you want to build. And I think that's truly a beautiful thing. So it's gonna be a while. It's gonna take a while, but like, every failure you experience, know that there's a lesson from it. And you'll get that lesson when you allow yourself to feel those negative feelings from it, but then also remind yourself that, this failure doesn't mean that you're not cut out for entrepreneurship. It doesn't mean that, you don't know what you're doing. It just means that there's a lesson there to be learned. Like, one of the things I like to ask myself, that I ask myself often when I experience tons of different twists and turns in my business, was like, well, what if, like, what if this doesn't mean X? Like, what if it means Y? Or like, what if this baseline assumption I was working off of was just wrong, and that's why I approached it from this way? It's like everything
Mhm.
you learn about entrepreneurship, because you're piecemealing it together as best you can, it's coming from someone else who is usually trying to sell something and they
Yes.
don't share the whole
Sure.
story or the whole truth. So you're pulling together half truths to try and get to, what it is that you're trying to achieve. So it's going to
Right.
be a long road, but it doesn't take forever. And
Yeah.
lessons literally are life changing. So
I
yeah,
love that.
just focus on self-trust. I think having that self-trust and developing skills along the way will serve you greatly. Especially like a self-coaching practice. I highly recommend. I would not be here today in this business if I did not have a strong self-coaching practice.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing all the information that you've shared. And
Yes.
how can people continue to follow you? I
Oh,
did put your
yes.
YouTube channel
Yep.
in
So
in
I
the
am
chat.
on Instagram and YouTube as the other Liz Walker. Yep. And
Yeah.
currently I do offer one-on-one business coaching, and I also offer one-on-one strategy sessions as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank y'all so much for commenting. Yeah, and thank you again, Liz, for being here and sharing all this. I'll have to go back and watch it to pick up all the gems, but I truly appreciate it.
Thank you. This is phenomenal, and I love your channel. And thank you
Thank
everyone for
you.
coming.
Yes, thank y'all so much. Until next time, y'all. See ya.